in the SpaceX fleet. While we've got some time, let's go over and talk about its brief but impactful booster history as it prepares for its eighth mission tonight. Its first flight started off on a notable front back on May 21st, 2023, almost exactly a year ago. It's the launch of the Axiom 2 private astronaut mission to the International Space Station. This flight was commanded by current Axiom space astronaut and former NASA astronaut Peggy Whitson. She was joined by fellow American John Schaffner in the pilot seat and two mission specialists from Saudi Arabia. The next booster flight came on July 1st, 2023, when it launched the European Space Agency's Euclid Observatory. This wide-angle space telescope is designed to better understand things like dark matter and dark energy. And as luck would have it, actually, tomorrow morning, ESA is going to be giving a presentation on some of the science that's been gathered during a live stream, talking about the successes seen from Euclid to date. Flights 3 and 4 for 1080 were a pair of Starlink missions. Those were Starlink 6-11 on August 27th and 6-24 on October 22nd. The fifth flight was another Crew Dragon mission. This time it sent up the Dragon named Freedom, supporting the AX-3 mission. Former NASA astronaut Michael Lopez Alegria, now also an employee of Axiom Space, was the commander of this mission, which lifted off on January 18th, 2024. One other interesting point of note on the AX-3 mission, I was on that flight that Mike LA became the first person to fly twice on board a Dragon capsule. The next person to join that club is likely going to be businessman Jared Isaacman once he commands the Polaris Dawn mission, which is set to launch early this summer. Launch number 6, as you see on your screen, is another Dragon flight, the first cargo mission for this booster, CRS-30. Of course, notable when it launched on March 21st, marking the first time that a second generation Dragon spacecraft launched to orbit off of Pad 40, now that it has that crew access tower supporting it. And most recently, of course, this booster launched the Starlink 6-52 mission back on April 18th. Up to 40 flights. Our own Adam Bernstein was up at Port Canaveral early this week as we saw the flight leader come back into town. You see there on your screen, that is booster 1062, which currently has 21 flights underneath its proverbial belt. Again, SpaceX is working to certify both its boosters and its payload fairings for up to 40 flights. 21 is the current flight leader on the booster side. It's unclear how many flights the payload fairings have undertaken. SpaceX does not regularly provide up data. It's made up by the Falcon 9 first stage, the bottom of the vehicle. Again, this rocket here has flown 7 times before, going for its 8th tonight. At the base of the first stage are 9 Merlin 1D engines, which burn rocket-grade kerosene and liquid oxygen, producing 1.7 million pounds of thrust. Around the engine compartment are black carbon fiber landing legs, which will be used to land the first stage on the drone ship, a short fall of gravitas. Above the first stage is the inner stage. This is a composite structure consisting of an aluminum honeycomb core, which is surrounded by carbon fiber. In that image on the right-hand side of your screen, you can see the deployable hypersonic grid fins. These are titanium winglets that provide stability and steering for the Falcon 9 as it comes back through the atmosphere tail first, like a big old dart heading towards the drone ship. The top of the inner stage are 3 mechanical latches that attach to the second stage. The first stage main engine cutoff, high pressure helium is used to release those latches, and 4 pneumatic pushers ensure a clean separation. The second stage engine nozzle is also housed safely inside the inner stage adapter until, of course, stage separation. Speaking of that second stage, the upper stage, the Falcon 9, powered by a single modified Merlin engine called a Merlin vacuum engine or an MVAC engine. It's equipped with a large nozzle optimized for burns in the vacuum of space, hence the name. It produces more than 200,000 pounds of thrust, and it will be fired twice on today's flight, placing the 23 Starlink satellites into their intended orbit. The MVAC engine burns the same propellant mix, RP1 and LOX, same as the first stage. After satellite deployment, it will ignite a third time as a deorbit burn, and that's to drive the upper stage back into the atmosphere, where it will burn up to help eliminate the risk, creating unnecessary space debris on this mission. Finally, up at the top are the payload fairings that encapsulate the 23 Starlink satellites. These fairings are made up of a carbon composite material and stand 13.1 meters or 43 feet tall, and they're 5.2 meters or 17.1 feet in diameter. 2 fairing halves will be recovered by one of SpaceX's 2 vessels named Bob and Doug here. They'll be using, I believe Doug is on tap tonight. And as previously shown, they splash down underneath parachutes. They'll be brought back into Port Canaveral along with the booster. They'll be brought over to Cape Canaveral, this being the Republic of Fiji. This photo shared by SpaceX founder Elon Musk. You see there standing in the middle just to the left of the Starlink terminal there on the table, the president of Fiji there on the right with the flag pin and a little orange lapel pin just beneath that. The Republic of Fiji is the 99th country, territory, or market, according to SpaceX, where the Starlink service is now available. You can see those clamp arms underneath the fairings opening up there from the SpaceX perspective. On board the Falcon 9 rocket are 23 Starlink satellites. Good overview of what those look like here. You can see them in a launch configuration from a previous Starlink launch. This will be the, as I mentioned, the 37th dedicated Starlink flight of the year. Each of them clocking in at about 1,760 pounds, or about 800 kilograms. With their solar panels unfurled, they have a wingspan of about 100 feet or 30 meters. They use argon Hall thrusters for in-orbit maneuvers, as opposed to the previously used Krypton Hall thrusters. They were built in Redmond, Washington. They'll be deployed at about 200 miles or 320 kilometers in altitude at a 43-degree inclination.
Stage 2 LOX load complete.
With that call out, the Falcon 9 rocket is now fully loaded with 1 million pounds of propellant. The venting you're seeing here are the ground gas closeouts, one of the final steps before SpaceX is prepared to launch its Falcon 9 rocket.
Ground gas closeouts.
Now just about a minute to go before liftoff. I see a number of your comments in the live chat. We'll promise we'll come back to those on the other side of liftoff, but for now, let's go ahead and focus in.
Falcon
So we're
9 is
expecting the SpaceX launch director to give their go for liftoff coming up in the next several seconds.
Go for launch.
And with that go for launch, we are now less than 30 seconds away from the launch of the Falcon 9 rocket. 20 seconds. 15 seconds. And here we go. In 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Engine ignition and liftoff of the Falcon 9 rocket on the Starlink 6-62 mission. Falcon 9 has cleared the tower. And a beautiful ascent of the Falcon 9 rocket, now a little more than 30 seconds into flight. This view for our friend Chuck Briggs. From our own Adam Bernstein here at the press site. This view from Pete Carson's with Max Q Productions as we cruising on the first minute of launch, coming up on Max Q, the point of greatest aerodynamic pressure on the vehicle. Falcon 9 now traveling faster than the speed of sound. Vehicles pass through Max Q, coming upon a number of events in fairly rapid succession. First will be first stage manage and cutoff at about T plus 2 minutes and 30 seconds. That'll be followed a few seconds later by stage separation, and then second stage engine start, 240. That'll be followed by fairing deployment at T plus 3 minutes and 7 seconds. Right now, a little more than 2 minutes into flight, they're thermally conditioning the Merlin vacuum engine, preparing for its ignition. Coming up now in less than 30 seconds. Fairly clear skies and great tracking views as we're coming up on MECO right now. Stage separation. And SCS-1. Second stage engine start. There you see stage separation from the Falcon 9's onboard cameras. Obviously getting a lot more views tonight than we did this morning for the NROL 146 mission, as that was a classified payload for the National Reconnaissance Office. See the hypersonic grid fins deploying on the Falcon 9 onboard cameras. As you see the payload bearings deploy in our live tracking feed from Pete Karstens. And there go the fairings in the SpaceX feed. The Starlink satellites heading up to low Earth orbit. Now a little more than 3.5 minutes into flight. Next milestone we're anticipating is the first stage entry burn beginning. The burn lasting about 22 seconds in total. We'll begin to rapidly slow down the Falcon 9 first stage booster. So far, both the first and second stages of the Falcon 9 rocket appear to be flying nominally in this mission. So coming into the 5th minute of flight.
Both vehicles continue to follow nominal trajectories.
Good call out from SpaceX, affirming what we believed we were seeing a second ago, that both the Falcon 9 first and second stages are continuing to have a nominal flight. Coming upon the first stage entry burn in real time, it's now just about 10 seconds away. If cloud conditions allow for it, we may be able to capture that with our ground cameras here. If we are able to spot it, we'll be sure to bring that to you. And yes, indeed, Pete's got a great view of that. Well done, Pete.
Startup.
Stage 1 FTSS saved.
And there you see the end of the entry burn in real time. The start of it, though, on the SpaceX feed coming in at a slight delay, which is the reason for the time dissonance here.
Stage 1 entry burn shutdown.
With the conclusion of that entry burn, the next milestone we're anticipating is coming up at T plus 7 minutes and 50 seconds when the start of the landing burn begins. Our friend Chuck Briggs, though, still has good eyes
Stage
on
2
the
FTSS
Falcon 9's
saved.
second stage. Just heard that call out about
Both vehicles
stage 2.
continue to follow nominal trajectories.
That Merlin vacuum engine you see there on the bottom right-hand corner of your screen was the on-camera views. The dot in the middle of the big box, that is Chuck's view from the ground. Now about less than 30 seconds from the start of the landing burn. Unfortunately, from our ground camera perspectives, the first stage is too low on the horizon for us to be able to capture that landing burn. So we will rely on the Falcon 9's onboard cameras to bring you those views. That landing burn beginning in real time. Coming up on the views from the SpaceX feed in about 5 or so seconds.
Stage 1 landing burn.
Views from the drone ship of Shortfall Gravitas should be coming up
Stage
momentarily.
2 terminal guidance.
Stage 1 landing leg deploy. Stage 1 landing confirmed.
And a good confirmation of the landing of booster 1080 on the drone ship Shortfall Gravitas.